Hello, I'm Toycat and welcome back to the second channel geography video. This is Evan's Story series where I talk about geography and the world and stuff. And today I wanted to talk about a particularly interesting concept which doesn't directly tie into geography, but I wanted to talk about the geography side of it because I wanted to talk about Slavs, or the Slavic population of the world. Because you've probably seen Slavs a lot more on the internet because, you know, there's like a whole meme from it now. But you've heard of Slavs in some way, but most people just assume that Slavs on Russia is just one and the same thing. Like, where do Slavs exist on the map? They exist in Russia. Russian Slavs, same thing, just one and the same, etc, etc. And there's like the tiniest bit of truth you could see there. And the other thing you can also define it, and a lot of people do think, just that everything east of Germany or everything east of Poland and onwards is just there where all the Slavs live. This is all like Slavic Europe right here. You know, there's so many countries because the Slavs have different places. You know, that place is called Slovakia. That sounds like Slav to me. Boom, that's it too. And although there's a little bit of truth to that too, again, neither of those definitions are even close to correct. And that's why I figured I could explain in today's video which countries are Slavic and how they're kind of related to each other in that Slavic way, because most of these countries formed and became independent in the last 27 years. So with that said, hope you all enjoy it. Let's get straight into it. By mentioning actually that I have a Slavic girlfriend, I'm saying that as like a defense in case I say something which is offensive to certain people. In the same way, if you accidentally say something racist, you can say you have a black friend. You know, I have a Slavic girlfriend, so I probably don't mean offensive things to you here. So yeah, first of all, I wanted to address before anything else the whole Russia equals Slav thing, because although the majority of the world's Slavic people population, which again, it's like a way to define lots of different people together. It's not one group of people. It's a combination of lots of different nationalities, races, etc. But the world's largest Slavic population exists in Russia. But it's not fair to say that like Russia contains most of the world's Slavs, or that Russia is the most Slavic country, because although the majority of Russia's population are ethnically Russian, which therefore makes them ethnically Slavic, because Russian is a type of Slavic, the thing is Russia actually has a pretty low percentage overall of people of their population who are Slavic as opposed to other types of people. So for instance, one of the craziest examples, I always like to bring it up because it's so crazy to me to remember, and maybe you think it is too, but this is the Sakha Republic over here, or Yakuza. It's like, some people like to call it its own country, but this is Yakuza over here. They have their own beauty pageant. This is Miss Yakuza, and basically this is I should mention, by the way, she looks suspiciously non-Slavic, right? But basically, yeah, this is Yakuza. It has the world's coldest point. Let's talk about geography for a second. Verkhoyansk over here is the world's coldest recorded temperature we've ever had, above the surface, naturally created, at something like minus 65 degrees Celsius. No idea how they survived there. They've got a population of like 1,000. No idea how that works. But when you picture a really cold Russia, you picture Siberia, you probably picture like Slavic man. Maybe he's doing a squat at the time. But the truth is the whole of Yakuza is mostly populated by the natives of that place, which looks something or other like this instead. So this is what they look like. They're not actually Slavs. There's a lot of non-Slavs inside Russia, and although they were eventually forced to co-opt Russian as a second language, they speak Yakutian. They look like this, or they look like this, and to say that they're like Slavs isn't right, and that's why Russia isn't necessarily just a Slav country. In the same way, America isn't just a white country, even though they have mostly white people living there. It's the same thing with Russia, where like it's not quite there because it's such a huge country. It can't be so homogenous in that way. And there you go. There is Russia. And there's a fun fact about the Sakha Republic. And also, oh, we zoomed into a place there. So also as just as a interesting fact. Also, if we go even further east, you end up at Vladivostok, which is their port on the Pacific Ocean. And when you end up over here, you get people that look like this instead. No, that's the same one. You get people that look like this instead. And you can see the Russian influence, but still, not really what you picture when you picture Slavic, and not officially Slavic. So, yeah, basically, the west side of Russia is Slavic, but then it goes so far east that it kind of stops being that. So, anyway, now we've got that out of the way, let's talk about these Slavic countries. Because the reason there is a Slavic people group and a group of Slavic languages is because there used to be just one Slavic tribe. They all came from the same rough group of people, which was formed in modern day like Belarus/Ukraine, somewhere between this kind of area. Again, it's hard to draw borders for tribes on nation states today, but it was somewhere over here that they formed, and then over the next hundreds of years, they eventually, developed languages towards countries, etc. Over time, and then they split into 3 separate tribes, which is why you get this kind of interesting distinction between Slavic populations. Even though they all formed from the same place, it's not like where you can be like, oh yeah, like Norwegian people are pretty much the same because this or that, that's a bad example, but all Spanish people are similar, or all Portuguese people are similar. You can't really do the same thing with Slavs because they eventually amalgamated into 3 separate tribes. There was the East Slavs. The East Slavs became Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine, which do have a lot of similarities. The West Slavs became Poland, Czechia, and Slovakia. as you can see on the map right here. Again, kind of distinct, but kind of similar to each other. You can see there again. And then the South Slavs, which are distinctly separated on a map. Again, when you look at a map, you think it's a bit weird. There's a gap, but there is. There's a gap, and then you end up with South Slavs, which are somewhere all the way from Slovenia across Croatia, lots of countries now because they are split up, all the way to Macedonia, and sometimes you consider Bulgarian there, but Bulgaria is like Slavic influenced more than Slavic itself. But anyway, my point being is there's three types of Slavs: East Slavs, West Slavs, and South Slavs. So that means that you get this interesting kind of gap where, to tell a quick story that this is relevant because I thought it was interesting, my, again, a Slavic girlfriend from the South Slavic countries had a West Slavic friend, and they could actually understand each other's languages very barely, like they could talk at each other in the same way that, like, you know, Spanish and Portuguese people almost understand each other. They could talk like Polish to, like, you know, Serbo-Croatian to each other, and it's just kind of fascinating to me that, like, these languages, because they have these roots in the same place back over here all the way back when, they can still talk to each other to this day. However, the difference between the nationalities of the Slav countries, especially of the different, you know, tribe variants, is pretty high. Like, so for instance, the countries from the South Slavs used to all be together in Yugoslavia, but that, you know, that just erupted, created this huge kind of split, because the truth is even though they have the same background in terms of like where they're from, again, even though you might say Poland, Czechia, Slovakia, just make a bigger country, the truth is a lot of divisions formed since then, because social divisions, like, you know, if you say they're a country for long enough, they'll consider themselves a country, but also religious differences. So for instance, this is really what tore apart a lot of Yugoslavia, because you have Serbia, which was the majority power there, but, you know, Serbia is, if I'm not mistaken, Orthodox, and then a lot of Croatians, or Croats at least, tend to be Catholic, and then a lot of Bosnians tend to be Muslim, and this causes this kind of thing where, like, they draw their, you know, their national lines based on almost religion more than the thing. Basically, you can draw lines infinitely. It's called Balkanization. I've gone over it a billion times. It's fascinating, but it means that you can end up with this place where countries can be split infinitely. So this place that used to be one country is now 7. Kosovo, or 6 if you want to be one of those Serbians that's like, no, we never accept Kosovo as country, even when the rest of the world does. But you got 7 countries over here. You got Kosovo, you got Montenegro, you got Serbia, you got Bosnia and Herzegovina, you got Croatia, Slovenia, and Macedonia, or the former Yugoslav Republic Macedonia. Saying these countries' names offends people. It's crazy how that's worked. But there's 7 countries where there used to be one, and then inside these countries you get like, oh yeah, well in Bosnia and Herzegovina, there's actually 2 countries. They work as like separate units. You have to have a lot of, you know, autonomy in these other separate places. Basically, what I'm, you know, like, for instance, all of the north of Serbia is like its own autonomous unit. Basically, it's just a mess of, like, you know, they're all divided in that way. So just because they all come from the same place, it doesn't mean they can necessarily form the same country. They don't have the same kind of link that, like, for instance, German people, or Germanic people, like, I know there's a slight difference, but German people, for instance, were just so willing to be like, you know, let's just make this mega country, let's do this, we're all German. But that kind of, like, loyalty doesn't seem to exist with the Slavic people, for various reasons. You can argue for historical reasons, but that's just why I'm saying the geography of Slavs means that you end up with what used to be just 2 countries and their satellite states. Literally, until 27 years ago, there was the USSR and USSR-aligned puppet states, you know, Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Bulgaria, and then there was Yugoslavia, and that was all the Slav countries in the world. Nowadays, here are all the Slav countries we have. So in the South Slavs, we've got these 7 countries, or 6, and arguably another one. Then in the East Slavs, you've got 3 countries. Then in the West Slav countries, we have Ukraine, Belarus, and Russia. And Moldova's in the weird kind of gap in between. But my point being is that's how things end. In case you're curious, why are Hungary and Romania kind of not there? Romanians, kind of weirdo and separate thing. Hungarians, really strange. We don't even know where their language came from. It's just like this weird anomaly inside Europe. Fun fact. And then Austrians are, of course, like, again, slightly German, but not German. Whatever. My point being there is that is why all of these things come to be. Also, oh, by the way, it's worth mentioning that even before the USSR and Yugoslavia, a lot of the Slavic population was still under the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Even though neither of those are Slavic people, they ruled a lot of the Slavs, and then same under the Russian Empire. Basically, lots of empires. Slavic people have been through a lot of country differences, and nowadays this is just where things settle. But before we go, I want to talk about their flags a little bit, because you might notice there's a lot of similar flags between these countries. Serbia's flag looks a lot like Slovakia's flag, looks a lot like these flags. So what I have here is I believe I have a little article here where you can see all of the, you know, the colors, and you can notice there's a clear trend. There is the red, white, and blue from Croatia. This is Croatia's flag. This is the Czech Republic's flag. This is Russia's flag. This is Serbia's flag. This is Slovakia's flag. And this is Slovenia's flag. They're all suspiciously similar because they all use the pan-Slavic colors. Because, again, every now and then they try to, like, as a Slavic group, be like, let's organize together. And in the 1878 Congress of, like, they did, like, I think it was in, like, I actually forget which city it was in, but they had a big congress basically of like all the Slavic countries to be like, let's work some stuff out, let's get some common goals going. And one of the things they worked out is to have like common Slavic colors, which all came from, I mean, it's fairly simple, from the Russian flag, but that's why all these flags look very slightly Russian, especially Serbia. Like, it's just kind of like slightly inverted Russian flag, right? And the reason for that is because these are Slavic colors. However, a lot of countries don't use them anymore. This is Montenegro's old flag, for instance. And there you go, just fun fact. And in case you're curious, by the way, the Slavic colors, which, they all came from Russia because Russia had the largest Slav population, because we're talking about flags now, because I like flags. Russia's flag, though, was inspired by the flag of the Netherlands originally, like the blue, white, red thing. So interesting enough, Slavic colors just means Dutch colors, because, they all come from the Netherlands in the end. So there you go, fun fact. Also, Slavic colors, blue, white, red, is what most colored flags use. That's red, white, and blue. That's the American flag. Blue, white, and... I think it's red, white, and blue for the British flag too, actually. Red, white, and blue for the French flag. Lots of flags are red, white, and blue, and they're not Slavic, so it doesn't make any sense, but that's why the flags are kind of similar. I don't get it entirely. It's one of those things where it's like, something, 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 gap, profit, question mark. And as you can see, even the flags that aren't red, white, and blue, they use a lot of those colors too. So here are the flags. Look at them. There you go. Fun fact. Hope you all enjoyed today's video about Slavs. And, I don't know, go do some squats now. So thank you for watching this video. Sorry for hitting my hand on the desk. I do that a lot when I'm talking, because I'm doing that many hand motions. A lot of people just assume that, like, oh yeah, it's this crazy fake thing, but it's not, I swear. I wanna tell you the things, and somehow doing hand motions helps, like I'm some crazy Italian. But thank you very much for watching this video, because I'm gonna see you all in another one. Maybe, maybe not. Second channel, don't care. Bye.